Yeah, that's good. I love, but I.
Good evening. I'd like to call the committee, Special Committee on Health, Opportunity, Prosperity and Education, known as HOPE, to order for Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chairman Juan Machado,
Present.
Vice Chairwoman Shelley Peterson,
Present.
Councilor Sue Ganabor is absent. Councilor Justin Warriors is absent. Councilor Miguel Sanchez.
Present.
We have 3 present, 2 absent, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Assistant Clerk. I also would like to recognize Councilwoman Sophia Graves for being here. She's of many committees, including Finance and General Government. So thank you for being here. Also like to recognize Tina Maswana, the clerk, who's here. Chief of Clerks. Tyler Crowder, Assistant Clerk and Attorney alias Perry. Thank you for being here. Today, we're here to consider the resolution on transparency and accountability for the Gilbert Stewart and Lima project. As we know, this is a major investment in the West End, South Side, and with that comes a responsibility to ensure that our residents are fully informed and included in a new school. And the new school must be more than just a building, it has to be a foundation built on trust. I know that the resolution is quite long, but I do want to have it on the record if we don't mind, members. If the clerk can read the resolution.
Whereas the Providence City Council has a duty to see that school construction projects place children first, ensuring that every new building strengthens learning and honors the trust of the community. And whereas the planned merger of Gilbert Stewart and Alfred Lima into a new pre-K through 8th grade dual language academy may offer an opportunity to reimagine learning on the Elmwood South Side, expanding access to bilingual education while providing families with a high-quality facility that meets 21st century learning needs. And whereas, at the same time, the Gilbert Stewart building holds deep historical and cultural meaning for the surrounding community, and the council affirms that preserving its architectural legacy, wherever feasible, must remain a priority in any redevelopment. And whereas, Council President Pro Tempore Juan M. Pichardo, at the inception of this project dating back to 2023, requested that 1, the PPSD and city engage residents in a meaningful way the desires for the school into the planning process, and 2, that planning incorporate an analysis of the feasibility of preserving and incorporating elements of the existing architecture into the design of the new school. And whereas it appears that all members of the school planning committee may not have been provided with these same items that we have requested to enable analysis, deliberation, and decision-making to determine if the proposed course of action constitutes the best use of funds for this project, and hindering the ability of the public and city council to closely follow the project and provide informed and timely input. And whereas, following an August 14, 2025 community meeting on the South Side, in which a commitment was made to provide the analysis by 3 architect firms supporting the determination that no portion of the existing school's architecture could be preserved and incorporated into the new school design, the council and the community members to which it was promised has not been received as of the drafting of this resolution. And whereas Council President Pro Tempore Juan M. Pichardo, by letter dated August 20th, 2025, formally requested from the city administration specific documents and clarifications relating to the planned demolition and reconstruction at the Gilbert Stewart school site, including but not limited to preservation cost analysis, demolition and abatement plans, project controls, comparative assessments, design schedules, and historic preservation approvals. And whereas, despite these repeated requests, only a limited portion of the requested materials has been provided. And the administration has instead relied primarily on verbal assurances rather than the clear written documentation for council oversight and public confidence. And whereas time is of the essence to receive this documentation to ensure sufficient time for oversight, input, and enable the city to receive the maximum reimbursement from the state allowable. And whereas this lack of timely and incomplete responses has raised significant concerns among constituents, community stakeholders, and members of the council regarding whether due diligence has been exercised and whether this project represents the best possible use of public funds. And whereas the proposed plan of action by the administration and project manager would demolish the existing structure before a final design is completed and accepted, and a reliable cost estimate is completed based on that proposed final design in order to ensure that the new design would fit within the budget available for this project. Now therefore be it resolved that the Providence City Council calls upon the city administration and its partners to promptly provide all outstanding documents and clarifications relating to the Gilbert Stewart Alfred Lima School project, to the City Council Office of Project Management, and to all members of the School Building Committee in order to ensure meaningful review by both the council and the community. And be it further resolved that the council calls upon the administration to halt all demolition activities at the Gilbert Stewart site, with the exception of remediation of materials and pest control activities, so long as they will not in any way damage the structural integrity of the building until such review has taken place. So the project moves forward with public confidence and a clear commitment to delivering a school worthy of its students and the neighborhood. And be it further resolved that should the administration believe that the halting of all demolition activities at the Gilbert Stewart site, as described above, could not be done without jeopardizing the maximum reimbursement rate from the state for this project, it shall immediately present evidence of this in a public hearing and to request an amendment to this order. Such hearing must include evidence that the city is in compliance with all state laws and regulations regarding filing and notifications to all requisite state entities, including but not limited to RIDE, RIDOH, RIDEM, and the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission. And be it further resolved that the City Council calls upon the administration to provide the documentation and answers previously requested by President Pro Tempore Juan M. Pichardo, as summarized in his letter dated August 20th, 2025, to ensure sufficient time for oversight and input, and to not jeopardize the city's ability to receive the maximum reimbursement from the state allowable for this project. And upon passage, a copy of this resolution be sent to Mayor Brett Smiley, Courtney Hawkins, COO, Javier Montañez, Superintendent of PPSD, Zachary Scott, PPSD Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Angelica Infante Green, RIDE Commissioner, Drew Eckelson, RIDE Deputy Commissioner for Systems Transformation, Joseph DeSantis, Director of Program Management, Downs Construction, and Providence School Building Committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you. I also just wanted to say that the merger of this school, Gilbert Stewart and Lima, transforming into a pre-K to dual language school, has the potential to provide a modern 21st century learning facility. This project is sound that we have sound financial investment to our city. And through this process, I've discovered many flaws that I think that we need to, and I talk to the committee and others, to improve the process of providing documentation, the appropriate documentation, timely documentation for us to provide oversight and also decision-making at the level of the city council, but also in the community. Many residents, as I've came across, have expressed real concerns, not just about the construction process, but also about the pre-K model itself. The school department hasn't given the council a clear rationale for this approach. As per the some of the community members, but perhaps even for us as a city council, we it's for us to hear today about that model. But also to hear about the project and the advantages and what has been the challenges, the state reimbursement, which we fall into, and points that have been highlighted throughout this process. These benefits are important to the city, but they must not come at the expense of our community's voice and confidence and also to make sure that the assurance to this pathway represents the best use of funds. At the end, it's to build the confidence for our residents in our neighborhoods, but also for us as decision makers. I want to acknowledge the fact that we have, after we put the resolution in, a lot of most of the information has come forward from the PPSD and also the administration. And today we're here just to hear from them some of that information that they provided and provide some answers to the resolution. But also there were some other items that were still missing. So some of that was about the design plans for the new building. A schedule when those plans will be available and how the public will be able to give input. A detailed construction schedule once the demolition is complete. And so at this time, we have a couple of people that are present to walk us through this process about the River Stewart School. And also, as I've spoken to a couple of the members of the city council, we're all facing some challenges when it comes to getting information in an adequate time for us to make critical decisions. I'd like to recognize first the chief of operating officer for the administration of the city of Providence, Courtney Hawkins. Also from PPSD, the chief of operations, deputy superintendent of operations, Zachary Scott. And I also see Mario Torino. If you like to come up. This is where the.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear in under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your names and titles for the record.
Courtney Hawkins, Sierra.
Zach Scott, Deputy Superintendent, Mario Torino, Chief Operations Officer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here and also the colleagues that are here. I know we've had several communication throughout a month and a half also more intensely, and especially a couple of community meetings. And so today is an opportunity to walk us through this project. And I know Courtney, Ms. Hawkins, is no stranger to this, and so if you can just walk us through in the sense of the resolution, but also what has been some of the questions or concerns, and also suggestions that you heard, but also in the community.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm gonna actually let Dr. Carino run through the history of this because he's been around for all of it and has the facts laid out. I just wanted to start by acknowledging your point on request for information. My understanding is we've submitted everything. The design and schedule is pending because there's community engagement that needs to happen on the design of the new building. This has been consistent with lots of our school buildings where we start demolition and work on community engagement. The scheduling of that meeting is actually pending your office pro tem. I'm waiting for dates for you and Counselor Taylor. If we don't get them, we'll proceed without that, but our hope was that we could coordinate that together. We have proposed designs that we'd like to put in front of the community, teachers, families, and neighbors to get feedback before that's all finalized. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Crane, and he'll run us through the history here.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council. Madam Chair, I'd like to submit this. Clerk. And Mr. Chairman, I agree that in general, we should always strive for continuous improvement. So I think every opportunity can be not just in the process here, but in general. So I think if there's things that we can do better, we will absolutely strive to do so. I think we have several examples for other projects throughout the city. One being the RFK project with Councilwoman Peterson and Mr. John Ryan, where like we keep tweaking and we keep learning, and I think those are being very successful. And the hope with this project is that we will have the same outcome. I think it's useful just to start with some facts. Some of these were meant to respond to the resolution, just to help perhaps answer any uncertainty or ambiguity that pertains with this project. So these are merely facts. These are grouped by local approvals, engagement opportunities, and then the last piece, which I think is critical, which is a direct response to your resolution, is what would any financial implications be? I think that was a direct concern. So as we go through, just a reminder, September 13th, 2023, 2 years ago, almost to the day, the City Council unanimously approved the new Gilbert Sewer project, the new ASMSR, and the Mount Pleasant project. Attached, you will find the resolution as well as the front page of the Stage 2 application. In this very room on May 29th, 2024, the contract was also approved for this project, for a new Gilbert Sewer project. The Providence School Building Committee has had since that time 20 meetings, which include, and in each of the meetings, they send out correspondence, including presentations and visuals and plans to the listserv, which includes members of the City Council, and Mr. Kyle Delgado is a representative for the City Council at those meetings. There have been 4 on-location meetings at Gilbert Stewart / Lima, and I suspect this is one where we may want to have even more, and we welcome to have those. We've had, I believe, 10 or 12 at Mount Pleasant. We show up whenever possible, but there have been 4 meetings. There have also been several district-wide meetings. These meetings are shared with families, community members, and City Council to attend the meetings. We also provide regular updates on the website, on Providence's site, which has all the presentations, the renderings, the plan writ large is available on the website. As it pertains to implications financially, and I think this is maybe where to spend some of the time, is that each of these projects, these major ones, take about 22 months. And we have, and we've talked about this before, is we have swing space limitations here, that we have about 4 or 5 swing spaces, meaning one project goes through, and then the other one has to wait for that one to finish, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. The project behind this one, which will be directly impacted, is the Roger Williams project. In that if there are delays to this project, that one will not qualify for its bonuses. 22 months from today is June 30th, 2027. So we do have like a tiny bit of wiggle room, but in order to qualify for the bonus per state law, you have to finish by June 30th of 2029. So the goal is to get the max bonuses for all your projects. But the timeline for that starts to become unachievable if there are delays in that process. I think that's something to consider. In terms of construction material escalation, it's about 6% per year is the average at the scale of this project. We're looking at about $400,000 a month in material delays, meaning if we were to buy something, a year from now, the cost it just increases, meaning you either have to have a smaller building, use less materials, or go to the taxpayers for more money to solve the project. So timing is critical for this one. And lastly, and I think this is the one that has been mentioned by the city's architects, they have done analysis, and I believe, Councilman, they will provide more of this documentation, but after reviewing the structure of the facility with the district's goal, and the goal for this building is clear, it's a dual language pre-K. That is the desire of the district. At the moment, the city has 6 pre-Ks in construction. But in order to achieve this, working with the existing configuration is not feasible. And for those reasons, the schedule has been proceeding. This has been, again, it's 2 years in the making. It is not something that just occurred over the past summer, so just trying to document that as well as itemize some of the expenditures. The other, and again, just to point out, the city has spent 1.7 million on design of the existing building. If that design was scrapped for whatever reason, and either the project doesn't advance or some other project, well, RIDE only reimburses for completed projects, so that wouldn't get the 91%. So designs have to end up with a completed project. So that's just a summary of these fact sheets. Suppose we can have a discussion on these before we enter other items that you may have questions on.
Yeah. Council?
Yeah, just a quick, and just for clarification, you said, actually, I believe Chief said that we're waiting on design implementation with community feedback. So there is something that has been presented forward, but, RIDE has already approved this particular plan. Is that how that works? I'm just trying to figure out, because you mentioned after that, RIDE only reimburses on completed projects, so I just want to make sure that something hasn't already been approved without the community engagement.
Great question. So there's a multi-stage process to get reimbursement. So the what's known as the stage 1, stage 2,
Yeah.
is just identifying the need and then coming up with a solution to your need. That's just the planning exercise. So the first 2 stages, right, the district and the city did a plan, and the solution for this application was these 3 projects. So at least that part has been approved, which guarantees that you're gonna get stayed as long as you comply with the school construction
Okay.
regulations. The next piece, which is known as stage 3, is to get the design approved. What we do at RIDE is we make sure that the plans that are submitted comply with the regulations, that they're using materials that are gonna be there for 50 years, that's energy efficient. There's a whole list of criteria that we do. That project is currently in that design process, and there's like 3 tiers to it. I believe it's like exiting the first tier into the second. But that's is still ongoing.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a quick question. Who made this fact sheet document? Is this a RIDE document? Or-
Mhm.
Alright, thank you.
I will say, I mean, we reviewed it collectively, so we all, I mean, like, not everything compiled, but it was definitely, I mean.
I was just wondering, it just has a state of Rhode logo on it. It's something clarifying. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say, and thank you for that timeline, and you know, as we came on in 2023, we've been getting PTSD. I recall having one of the first meetings to talk about the schools, right? In particular, when it came to building Gilbert Stewart in Lima. And after that conversation verbally requesting that and recognizing that the community needs a newer school, but also I requested in essence to also take into consideration how do we maintain Gilbert Stewart history, the architect and so forth, while also advocating and pushing forward for a modern school for our kids. So within this time frame, and we looking at some of the information that was provided to us, and you reflect on how the assessment was done. Where it says, you know, after multiple structural design and educational suitability evaluation, it is not possible to renovate the existing building into an ADA accessible functional dual language pre-K facility. And the question has been was a financial analysis done to create that sort of facilities while maintaining some of those structures? Can you walk us through? Because I got a memo from the Arbor Construction dated August 9th. It's like since 2023 and then 2024, where even the school was closed a year earlier because of, we needed to, as it was put forward from PPSD, we needed to save money. We saved during that time, by closing the Gilbert Stewart School a year earlier, I think it was $1.5 million. So was that, analysis done, during that time, and why not, and why now, when the memo says August 9th, I believe?
I'm not certain what memo you have, but I think we can absolutely answer those questions. There's, in terms of, we'll start with the Gilbert Stewart name and the legacy there. August 21st, Toronto architects, or the city's architects, in response to the state historic preservation, have committed to having written evidence to create a display in the new school that would honor the previous school, honor Gilbert Stewart. The city council has naming powers and can choose to name the building after Gilbert Stewart. That would be a suggestion to ensure that the name continues. I believe you've shared that as a priority, keeping the name for that. That's absolutely in the control of the city council. In terms of costs, the biggest challenge here is that this building historically was designed as a middle school, grade 6 to 8, which is different than the younger children. Pre-K in particular, which requires bathrooms on every floor, first floor location. The younger kids need special exits than the older ones, challenges that didn't exist. So in terms of a pure renovation, if it was going to stay a middle school, absolutely. I believe the cost is like 52 million is the number that the architect gave, if it were going to remain a middle school. The district has made a pivotal shift to have less middle schools for a variety of reasons, which we're happy to discuss. But in this case, the architect determined that, like, adding the bathrooms, the clusters of English and Spanish classrooms would have to be together, the small nature of the rooms, it was not feasible to convert that building as is into the dual language pre-K. Additionally, that building, which was built, I believe, in 1930s, is not ADA accessible, right? It's grandfathered from the codes. That the idea here as well is to make sure that anyone can come here. Some of the older buildings in Providence, if someone broke their leg or had a wheelchair, they just couldn't go to that school. They were going somewhere else. The idea here is to correct that.
Well, was the decision to demolish the entire building prior to 23-22?
Yes, so then,
When and who made that decision to?
yeah, so the school building committee, which is comprised of members of the city, the city council, the school department, the school board, members of the public, starting, I want to say it was February of 23, began the stage 1 process for these. They had discussions over several months. They looked at several iterations, and the one that was selected in this one was the new Gilbert Stewart. This is the package that was brought to the city council for approval, which included demolition of the new building. But that occurred 2.5 years ago. The initial thought process and then the approval locally came in September, and then the RIDE approval came in December of that year.
And I recognize the resolution, I know about that. As we know, in essence, when it was presented to us on the committee, I believe it was finance and on the floor. But prior to 23, that suggestion or the discussion about demolishing the school and also just going with the pre-K to 8 school, was it done prior to 2023?
Yeah, so the pre-K thought process is even before that. That was based on multiple community engagement sessions that we heard that's what families wanted, was pre-K-8s. They wanted, you have very few middle schools, and which requires kids to start being bus fathers, so they wanted more neighborhood schools. The reason and the way to achieve that is through the pre-K model. It also, they do better academically. That is separate. So that started in early 2022. As you know, this plan has changed over time via the availability of additional bonds that the city council and voters approved. There have been 4 bonds since 2018. So the plan every 2 years, additional projects are able to be considered. So prior to, it would have been the November of 2022 vote, there was no plans for either of those three projects because there were no resources to make these projects a reality. When voters approved the bond in November of 2022, that's immediately within 3 months. Providence had submitted a stage 1 application to begin that thought process, and the building committee, which is comprised of a multitude of stakeholders, were the ones who came up with the final list, which was then approved locally and then approved by the state.
Any other, so, another question is, one of the things that is missing here, that I think you referenced it, where's the work of the 3 architects that was referenced in terms of design?
Yeah, so we can submit,
That is in your packet, work from 2 of the 3 architects. That participated in different design. Iterations over time.
So I don't think we do have this in terms of the design. No. So, and so who were the 2 that were submitted? What happened to the third one?
That was just a preliminary analysis, my understanding during stage 1, this was before my time. But the 2 more recent analysis, Toronto is the current architect. And I think maybe Toronto summarized it all together in the memo for you. But I'll note that like all of that analysis there's been a lot of pressure for a lot of detailed analysis on does the school fit in this building? All of that analysis costs money that would not be reimbursable because it is not required by RIDE. The analysis that was required was done, and that's why the application got approved. Additional analysis would be, the city would have to pay for it out of pocket. From our perspective, the question has been asked and answered. Although I know people would like us to do, several more rounds. I think Dr. Carreno just explained that it is not a complicated exercise to understand that a pre-K to 8 doesn't fit in that building, and so we've provided the details, I think, of 2 of the 3 architects.
Yeah. And we certainly understand, and even moving through the process of what we understood about keep moving the process of the pre-K to 8 in front of our committees, which at times it's one of those things that we're not provided all the details. At the time of, and I do recall and I recognize that Scott was here at one point, I believe, in one of the discussion about the schools in phase 2, I believe. In finance, I believe. And so understanding that at times when we hear demolition, and going through that conversation and asking, all right, we're gonna get a new school, but can you incorporate some of the structure? Is there some cost analysis? How can we determine the savings cost prior to the demolition an entire building, and then realize that we could have saved some money? What I'm hearing is that we didn't go through that analysis prior to August.
That's not true.
And because it required additional funding, because it also, as you stated, it wasn't reimbursable. Because you had 3 firms, but they never really took those into consideration in terms of the full analysis. It was just more of, hey, it's gonna be costly because it's a historical building and so forth.
no, so I think what Chief Hawkins, to do new studies now that are not already created will cost money. There is, as part of stage 2, and we require this of every project, to do a cost effectiveness analysis. In some cases, for the city of Providence, Nathan Bishop, Narducci Learning Center, it is more cost effective to reuse the existing building. That's not always the case. If we look at Spaziano, it was torn down. If we look at these ones, so that calculation has been made. What makes this one more complex is that it's not an apples to apples comparison. If it were a straight middle school to middle school, it likely would have been more cost effective to renovate and keep it as a middle school. However, that's not the priority of the district. In fact, you have 7 or 8 buildings being built at the moment. And to have the younger kids there and offer the dual language, which is a priority, that building itself doesn't work for that.
If I.
We can agree on that.
Yeah, and if I can give one concrete example from, and Mr. DeSantis not here, who's described this before, but for those of you, you certainly know Gilbert Stewart, it's up a big flight of stairs to get into the building. You cannot by code have pre-K in that space, exiting out from that building. Nor would we really want any kindergartners there. So to actually fit the pre-K on that site, you have to add another wing outside of the building. And doing that on that parcel is not feasible. So I think that was that's one of the practical examples of how the site wasn't conducive to a pre-K, beyond the interior not being ADA accessible and all that you actually couldn't fit the program with the pre-K on that site, given that the school is above grade.
How many students are expected to be in this school?
It's, I believe, 900 or so, so it's like 400, 100 per grade.
It's interesting, just because of what you had said about it not being able to be, and I think maybe what you were referring to is the way that the school is designed right now, not being able to be ADA accessible. It wouldn't be able to be pre-K through 8 as is, just in comparison to the Kennedy footprint, Kennedy is significantly smaller, like
Yeah, Kennedy is,
100,000 feet bigger than Kennedy.
yeah, and Kennedy's three classes per grade, and then
Right.
4 at the middle school, and this is 4 all the way up.
I was just curious to see the numbers because I know that Kennedy's potentially gonna be about 800 once it's all done. And just the footprints are vastly different. That's all. Thanks.
Both have complicated property lines.
Yes.
also.
So, so when will the final design be ready for review? And with community, what's the plan for community engagement? I mean, meaningful community engagement?
We have proposed a series of, designs to show people. And we are ready to have that meeting. It is pending their office to provide us with dates when you would be able.
And I don't want to speak out of turn, but there have been some preliminary designs that we
Right,
reviewed
right.
with the faculty, the principal, we actually reviewed at the meeting we had at the library. While those aren't the final ones, that was to get people an early sense, particularly on the interior spaces. So it's not that we've had several meetings already where the preliminary designs have been.
Aren't those more design of how the space inside are going to be designed versus also the
We
design
can show
outside and all
you, we
that?
can show you both.
Because
Yeah,
In
yeah,
your
I think that's
presentation,
where
never
where we start, right, is we want to show people, here are the learning spaces, here's what we're designing for. And then before you're submitting both inside and outside, but where we start typically is to show the inside of the building, because that's the most critical, we want to.
Nothing has been submitted to RIDE for approval because we are pending engagement for further feedback on the design.
And Mr. Chairman, for all these which have three designs, schematic design, design development, and 60% construction documents. All of these first go to the building committee in a public meeting, they're shown, they're sent out to the listserv, and then they're approved by the committee before they are even sent to RIDE. So there are multiple opportunities.
now, are those designs already, since you have all three of them, you have the estimated cost of all these designs?
We don't have all three. We're working on schematic designs, which is the first step, and that will include an estimated cost. I mean, there's an approved MOA for this building, so it needs to fall in that budget, but, part of the process is to align the design with the budget and make sure that we're consistent.
And that's one of the things that was missing in the request of.
Because
Documentation.
we're waiting to do community engagement, which we were waiting for you to help us do. We can move without you on that. The next step before we submitted anything was to do community engagement with you on that topic.
Well, I think, as you indicate, waiting for me, but we've had already a couple of meetings in the community. And the opportunity to present, to the community some design, so at least, I mean, even in the meetings that we've had. What is it, September 12th and I believe it was September 9th. that we had an opportunity, and I know that people were not in favor, they had a lot of concerns. At least by the second one, we didn't get that information.
We
So
were-
as far as engaging,
Chairman, just to clarify, for
Yeah.
that second meeting, there was no request made to me about what you wanted in that presentation. If you had asked us to bring information about the new design, I would have certainly done that. I was asked to show up and talk about the demolition of the building, which we did. In the previous one, the architect actually did present to the group. Most of the group was focused on the demolition, but we did present design there, and the one person there who had a child who was potentially going to the school actually provided meaningful feedback, which we've incorporated as we've continued to work on the design together.
Everybody in that.
excuse me,
We just want.
excuse me, Michelle, Councilwoman Grace?
I think this, and this is just me being me. This seems to be like a playbook here. Where we're having these meetings and we get some of the information and not all. We ask for certain things and we never get it, or if we do get it, and we say this is not what we wanted, and they're working on the design, they're working on the design, they're working on the design. Until, well, if we don't get it out now, it's gonna be too late and we're gonna lose the money type thing. I think having done this a few times, we shouldn't have to keep asking for the same thing. All of us seem to be going through the same thing with you guys. You know what we want, you know what we need, you know what the community wants. The biggest thing that people that we should be making happy should be the community. And if the community is not getting all the information, we're not getting all the information, then that makes everybody frustrated. And then it looks like we're attacking. We're not attacking. What we're saying is get us what we need so that we can give them the information. I went through this for well over a year. Matter of fact, before I even went into office, Cat was going through the same situation over certain things. It wasn't the exact same issue, but we asked for the designs for years. And when I finally said, okay, I had enough, you guys have to come, everybody come. I want you all in the same room at the same time because everybody's playing games. This one's pointing the finger at you because you're not here. This one's pointing the finger at you because you're not there, you know. Then we get in the same room and they come back with the same design that I had said no to in the first place, because the community had said, we don't want this. And it was like, oh, well, then we'll come up with something. And in a week or 2 weeks, they didn't. It just kept on going and going until it was like, enough is enough, we're done. I don't think you can keep doing this because there's no good faith here. It doesn't feel like there's any good faith coming to us. And it doesn't feel like it to the community. And it doesn't feel like it to us. And if everybody's going through the same thing, then we just need to figure out a way to get this done. We have to do it right. We shouldn't be sitting here talking, I mean, this is a playbook. I went through the same things. For my thing, all these things are the stuff, you know, we had community meetings and stuff wasn't done. We requested and we didn't get, we've had meetings and you know, Kyle sits on your thing and he does a good job. I'm not saying you guys don't do a good job, but you're not doing a good job in delivering the information to us in a timely manner. You're not doing a good job in letting us know the answers to the questions that we're giving you, not talking around it, not saying we'll get back to you, not saying, well, I didn't know that's what you really wanted, you know, give us the things. And if you're not sure, bring more. I'd rather for you to bring more information than say, I didn't know that's the information that you want.
I take that feedback. We will try to be better. I will say, in particular in this project, I was surprised at the shock about the demolition of the building. Because the demolition of the building had been clearly articulated in outlines on multiple occasions, in hearings, with council, like it says it in the stage 2 that was approved and supported by council. So when people said, what do you mean we're demolishing the building? Honestly, I said, what do you mean, what do I mean? Like, as long as I've been involved in this has been the conversation. So somehow that point was missed and, you know, we know that now, and so it feels like we're catching up. But it is clear in everything that that was what we were doing at that site. Different than like talking about how something, like the stage 2, for example, for Kazarian. It didn't have a design. And so the back and forth you experienced was part of the process, but that wasn't ever something you had seen, right? Everything that has come before the council, the school building committee, and everyone else has said, this building is being demolished. So we are where we are now. Like, we have to work together to engage folks on this. We have examples of projects where the community has been engaged through the whole time, and it is always in partnership with the counselor. So we really need help doing that. It is where we are most successful, and everyone on the team will do that all the time if we have the opportunity to.
I'm sorry, this one,
Councilwoman Grace.
this, I hope we're all being really, really listening to the community too. Cause sometimes we don't hear everything that they're saying, so I'm just concerned that sometimes they get shafted or feel like they're being shafted. No,
Yeah.
no, and that's, like I said, that's not a quote at anybody, I'm just saying, all of us
Totally.
sitting around this table, we really have.
And
need to make
something that is particularly challenging is, you know, in our last community meeting, we had a number of educators from the Lima School there begging,
Mhm.
please build us this school.
Mhm.
Please don't try to shoehorn us in this. Please make this the money. And so there has been a substantial amount of engagement with the school, that community there. They all want this. And so, it is difficult when there is not agreement across different community groups to determine, and that's where the counselor can really be helpful in helping us navigate that. But there are voices who are saying, please don't delay this, because we are desperate to get in this new building and you're going to build this.
Councilwoman.
I actually just had a quick question, and I apologize that you might have it and I don't, but I focus in on the build in my neighborhood more so. The demolition is scheduled for when?
It should start this week.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
So this is one of the things that I have to be clear, and as you indicated, yes, we've heard of the demolition and the past resolution, and the information has been quick over the tribes. Even when we talked about, can you provide us this information, it was just trickling in. All that information should have been available right away. And one of them included the meaningful community engagement, not just only coming from me, from our city council, but just, you just mentioned, I know, Zach Scott and PTSD perhaps presented in the schools to the teachers. But what about the rest of the communities, right? Like you had indicated, there are some pockets of people that are not in agreement with certain things. I, from the beginning, had said, look, we need a new school, but can you incorporate some of the structure, some of the history of Gilbert Stewart? And that's been always from my position since I was elected here. Now, one thing that we realized, and I realized that too, that should have put that in writing, more so. Two, when we talk about demolition, especially in the last couple of months, is that definition of demolition, right? When you hear demolition, well, the wrecking ball is coming next day. The targeted date continue to move. At one point, it was like August 9th. Oh no, we're gonna start the demolition on the 9th.
That's not-
And so, but again, how people hear things and how we interpret things. Now. The information is provided and so forth, the demolition, can you just explain it for, on the record in a sense, what does. This week, what's the second part of the demolition? There are there phases in demolition?
The abatement of the building started, which is the first phase that you talked about. The taking down of the building will begin imminently. There are a few things that have to happen as it relates to turning off the electricity and other utilities. Once those are completed, the permit will be issued and the building will start to come in.
So, once the permits start issuing and when it goes, like, give me,
As soon as the utilities are shut off, that I don't control,
no, is that, and that part of the plan that you submitted to us?
yes.
And the community engagement. Can you speak to more on that in terms of,
The community, I mean, we've outlined the community engagement that was done. That is the community engagement that will be done regarding the demolition. Because the question about can we fit a pre-K to 8 in this building has been answered. We have to start demolition. While we're doing that, we can then finalize the designs, which is consistent with what we've done at Kazarian, at Kennedy, at other schools. We start the work of demoing the building because we know the building has to come down while we're finalizing the new designs for the site. And if we don't start demolition now, we will not open this school in 2027, which means we will have to look at all the other school construction and decide what's not getting done, because we will not be able to hit our budget targets with rec.
part of the, preserving, as you also indicated, some of the history in your plan of engagement in the community, which some people have stated in terms of keeping some of the architecture.
Yeah.
Because you can't that, in essence, wanted the school to pretty much not be destroyed. Can you speak on that in terms of what we've seen in other schools like Mount Pleasant or Nathan Green, where people have the opportunity, not just only myself, but just people that actually know about preserving the history of a school. Can you speak to that plan going forward? With the community engagement besides what we have, but also from the perspective of engaging other members besides the teachers and so forth.
I don't think there are plans related to any further preservation efforts. The team is working to take assets from the building that could be saved and utilized in a future building. They've also documented the building, which is typically the requirement or the request of the historic preservationist office is to thoroughly document the building. All of that was done prior to the building.
And is that available on a listserv or where are they gonna be storing these artifacts?
That is for discussion. We can talk about how that gets done. The work has been done. It's all been documented. Where that lives in the future is for discussion.
So it's as it goes.
We're open to suggestions. I haven't contemplated that.
See, those are the kind of things that when we ask the question, then we gotta come up with the answer.
I don't.
I mean,
I don't.
And I guess we don't have the answer, but it's one of those things that this process of that we're going through is to ask the question so that people can really think through about these projects in the communities. Some projects are much easier, that the school was pretty much, the wrecking ball came pretty quick. Different communities are different, right? You saw it in the Mount Pleasant area, you saw it in Nathan Green, JFK, I don't know as much how, I know a little bit, but what was that pushback and what was the plan? That one there pretty much is gonna go destroyed, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's a full
Fully-
rebuild, but
demolition,
it's a little bit of a different scenario.
Yeah.
The footprint requires the full on, and the families were extremely, and the teachers and
Yeah.
They were very much invested in seeing something new there. So like the community engagement that we did, and, if I can just.
Yeah.
I pulled many of these people into meetings very often because, as, as you do, we have all these people to, respond to, and Zach and the people that have come through for PPSC, as many times as I've brought them in, they have answered all of the questions, and new neighbors come to new meetings and, PTO meetings and all these things. There's so many different layers of, engagement that at Kennedy they do and they have had, and I'm very appreciative of it, but I do understand where you're coming from in terms of being able to just make sure that we have certain things addressed before we move forward. I can understand and certainly empathize with that. We, in my last community meeting, we asked about what the demolition plan would look like, because the community neighbors wanted to understand what that looked like there. And that's probably, a bigger piece right now where neighbors are like, well, how are you gonna protect us from all of the, the dust and all those things that are coming through? And so they've had a really good, a robust conversation with the neighbors that were at the meeting.
And those are similar concerns and questions that we've asked over time. And in the last meeting, there was some discussion on that. I know that when I speak to Jose in the corner of Princess Street, he has not received information regarding pest control, right? People talk about the mitigation and remediation of the inside of the building, but I've asked a more thorough and complete plan going out at least, 2 blocks away. Because when we destroy these type of buildings, the uninvited guests start flocking throughout the neighborhood. And that wasn't provided at the last meeting, so what is the plan? What is the?
We've provided you in the package of materials information about environmental controls and pest controls. If you have specific constituents you want us to reach out to, I'm happy to provide those to them as well, and we can cover that in the next meeting we have also.
So, but the demolition is scheduled already for this week. So so who's the point person that is gonna, and I've asked this in a sense, besides you, besides Mr. DeSantis, that is gonna work with a community? Because I think that's where the missing link has been.
There's
And this is one of the reasons why a resolution was put that intense, because of that information was not being coming forward. And just slow walking this process. And so I just wanna hear from you, and is there a person that is gonna do the work, that's gonna initiate a direct contact with us in the community, and this person is gonna be the person that's gonna walk the neighbors, and also this project in terms of community engagement.
Yes,
Who's
so
the
there's
design?
a one person from the construction company assigned to this, who can do whatever it is that needs to happen in terms of community engagement. If you would like us to move ahead with that without you, I'm happy to do that. If you would like to do it with us, we're also happy to do that.
Well, I think that the writings on the wall that have been on this, and this is one of the reasons I asked, because there's been that missing link. But who is that
Understand,
person?
but I don't know the name, I'll have to give it to you,
Sorry.
but, my request for meeting dates where you're available to do community engagement has been pending the council office for a week. So I hear what you're saying. You're saying, don't do this without me, I wanna do it, but then if I can't schedule it with you, we can't do it. And this is not the first time this has happened, so. Councilwoman Peterson just highlighted, like, anytime you want people there, everyone will show up. You tell us, I mean, we got 36 hours notice for this meeting and we are all here. So if you would like to schedule the time that works for your community to hear about whatever the issue is, you tell us when that is and we'll be there. If you would like us to go ahead without you and schedule it, and if you can make it, then we can also do that. But we are ready to provide that information, we're ready to, I believe the person who's in charge of the site was at the first community meeting, he can be back for the next one. Your constituents will have a person to contact on a daily basis if they have concerns about what's happening there. We've also provided the information. James Moore attended the first community meeting because he can also be a resource for people if they're not getting what they need as they're ready.
So,
This is actually directed to you, are you looking to potentially try and hold off the demolition until the community movement is done? Is that what you're?
no, at this time, you know, after getting all the information and evaluating and seeing what we have, you know. I've gotten enough feedback from the community and I know from the beginning what I wanted, right? They weren't providing. In essence, in terms of taking into consideration the historical components of the Gilbert School. As far as scheduling meeting back and forth, and it's about scheduling between staff and all of us in BPSD, that's where it all has lied in dates that I provided to you. So we're not gonna get into this, but you can't just put it on me in essence that this is all I want. Yes, I want the best school for the district. Yes, I want the best engagement for the community. Yes, I want the voices to be heard. But when we've talked, it's about these meetings that we have to put together. And then I go out and even in the community, try to get members from the community. Most of the time, people that we hear from are those who are the practitioners, right? That are passionate and care enough because they care of something in particular, whether it's historical, whether it's their kids, whether it's the teachers. Last time it was the teachers. Somewhere along the line, someone rallied the teachers and principals and they were there. Of course, they're gonna say, and we're all aligned and we have the common ground to have the best school in that site. And so what I say to you is that finally, if you have a person that we engage instead of you or directly, because you're a high level of priority, and to schedule meetings with you all and the details of it, that's where we get lost and then it feels that we have to put community meetings a week before, 3 days before, and we feel that it's the last minute. And so what going forward, if my colleagues hold up their questions from now, I would ask, one is, it's not clear what is that demolition, if the wrecking ball is gonna be there this week. I ask, give us at least to October 4th, one, to engage more of the community, to put a group of people that can go into the building and do a walkthrough, just like they've done with other schools. The other is, let's talk about where these things are gonna be stored. What is the plan to engage the community to build on that story? Are you committed to doing something like that?
Yes.
Is that for everyone?
Yeah, and that's actually outlined in the architect's letter, August 21st, to historic preservation. The idea is to document the written history, whatever artifacts that can be preserved, and actually in the school have an area to acknowledge the history of the building and the history of the builder. So it's written in writing already. August 21st from LA to our office.
Right, and I saw that, but have you scheduled that? Because again, I want to make sure what is the definition of demolition? When is the wrecking ball gonna go? Because from the beginning, yes, we knew about the demolition and I've had this conversation on the side. All right, we're gonna go with demolition, but what is the process of looking at the historical component? What is the plan? No one has the plan, so let's come up with that more so. And so,
I thought there was I was included on an email chain of a walkthrough with yourself and other people, and next week or so to review the interior of the building. Is that?
it was today, it was sent out yesterday, it was for today, I don't know, did anybody go?
Yes.
Was the historical people went there too? The Preservation Society,
I don't think they were,
were they invited?
I don't think so.
Again,
I don't know who's included. Our team was there, my team was there.
and meaning your team, meaning
John Arzumian.
from the properties. no one from the community was there, any additional person. So-
This is the first time I'm hearing from you that you would like to do that, so no, they were not going to.
So you're committed to at least, let's put something together in the sense that
I
people will
can't
vote.
commit to that because the team is moving forward on demolition. I can look at the schedule and see if there are days to do that and come back to you.
Councilwoman Lewis.
Who is the team and why can't you?
Because we can't waste any more time.
That it's not a waste of time, it's just something that the council is requesting, and this is something that the community is requesting. It's not a waste of time. If, you can't tell me that a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks is gonna really jeopardize this 27, this this time.
I can tell you that though.
Not really, because we know that there's always things that come up in any type of buildings and any type of demolitions, any type of all these things. So there's always gonna be something. So this is one of the somethings. So why is it that you cannot wait for 2 weeks? That the councilman is just requesting 2 weeks.
I'm happy to send this around, and I might be misreading this, but there was an email, the council representatives from public property about a walkthrough with Councilman Pichardo. This started September 8th. It was attempted to do on the 11th and 12th, that didn't work.
Right, that wasn't available,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
and one that was sent yesterday to Kyle.
yeah, they said that they're trying to find, it sounds like another time in the next day or, very soon, because. Why?
So my question, again, we've made the attempts, but it's not part of the plan where we can include other members, and also. We've had the discussion even with our Caleb, who is the archive. And also members of the Historical Preservation Society. So it's not just only me, I mean, I have an eye and so forth, but I'm not an expert on it. And so I want to develop a plan in the sense that we're on the table and we're going to do this like we attempted. And the dates have slowly been released, and at times we have to ensure whether we're here or we're not available. All I'm asking is now moving forward is that you're dealing with the Preservation Society. The letter that was sent out, an answer to their question, and that's still in question whether, however.
It's clear, and to clarify, it's the commission, not the society. The society is a nonprofit. It has nothing to do with this project. The commission also only has advisory role in this, and we have complied with everything that is required. As outlined in that letter and as admitted to in their response.
So that's clear already. Because in the beginning it wasn't.
It is
And
always,
this is part of the process.
it has always been clear to me, people have been spreading misinformation on this topic, but my perspective from the first time we talked about this has been consistent because we evaluated it to be sure we were in compliance, and we are.
Okay.
The work to put this building on the historic registry was never done. The building is not under their purview because it was not put on the registry.
When is it that it's not gonna be accessible? Two, if it's possible to get people out there, so that way we can outreach properly. And include certain members to go into that building, do a walkthrough. By at least the 4th or the 5th of October. And then also the plan for archiving all this stuff and the stories behind Gilbert Store.
To clarify, the documentation that I mentioned is video and photographic documentation, so that's why I said there's an opportunity to discuss what we want to do with that in the future. It all exists and we can talk about what we do with it. I will certainly provide you with an update on the status of the demolition start, and I will make sure you and your office know before that happens. I can tell you with almost entire certainty that that will not wait till October 4th. We are putting the design of this building and other buildings for kids in Providence above the other priorities. And I know that that is dissatisfying for some groups, but it is the focus that we have. And if we're gonna open a new school by 2027, we are already behind. We cannot delay further.
Thank you. Councilwoman Grace?
Okay.
So we are all in agreement that we want the best schools for our kids, particularly even in that neighborhood. And that has been my argument from the beginning. And if it wasn't because of these conversations, the resolutions and getting the documentation and how it's been trickled in, it's been a challenge. But putting that aside, we want to make sure that going forward, even with the design that now you say that you have it, we've asked for it prior to, and now we have, but you also indicate that we want to engage the community before deciding a design on the building. So I look at it from a two-pronged approach. One, now that we know more clearly in a sense that this going forward without any delay, and yes, I wanted to halt it. I wanted to delay it to have more of an input from the community. But I'm asking again to figure that out, so that way we can do it intentionally with some other people, not just only myself and Providence. And so the other is that point person that you just mentioned, who's gonna be that person? To engage all of us in the community and the design of the building. Teachers know how to, and educators know, the design in theory. I think the community, what I've heard from many of them is that they also want to see what the design outside. So that's where we wanna make sure that happens. And then lastly, I just hope that, going through this hearing, that you hear also how frustrating it has been for several of our colleagues. This resolution or this hearing was not put forward because everything was being delivered to us or a process or a plan that was thought out right from the beginning together. And I think that and my goal is to make sure that in the future, as the administration of PPSD goes forward, even RIDE, is to really engage a community that's with a plan of intentional community engagement. What does it mean? And work with, not only with me, but with others in the neighborhood, so. And, yes,
I was just asking if you were doing.
Oh. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else you'd like? So I just wanna make sure, just before I do, if there's any public comment, are we clear in essence of what is the next step, Alicia? Can you just,
You would like me to evaluate if there's another opportunity to get in the building. And with that,
with community members and people that know?
whoever is determined.
Society.
Eh?
You said historical society.
Yes,
Preservation, yeah.
I will evaluate if that's possible. I will also make sure that you're notified and date certain that the demolition will start. It is not a wrecking ball, but it is demolition. Point person, I'm gonna we're gonna communicate both a point person on the design engagement to follow up on our requests for meetings. I will also make sure that you have the point person who's managing the site. Those are two different people, construction site manager and the design engagement. We will make sure, and we will take note of the feedback we got and continue to try to do better as we work with our other things. Is that right?
and then any members in the public that would like to make a brief 2-minute feedback or comments, 2 minutes. If you can just go forward, yes, 2 minutes.
Finish, I was.
That's what this one.
But under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
That's right.
Please state your name for the record.
That last name, but
Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle.
I just want to point out some fundamental issues here that seem to be getting characterized as some sort of low grade hysteria, lack of comprehension, you know, people are not smart or whatever. Fundamentally, the decision to make this school not a middle school and into a K-8 school on a campus that already has 80–90% of the physical assets, including a junkyard that the city owns, with parts all over the place, with fire trucks and police cars. Somehow, none of those issues, none of those opportunities, $1 million field across the street, a community rec center, a community center, a swimming pool, I can tell you the list goes on. But the bottom line is, the issue, I think, for most people in the community is at one point, the impression that we had, we talk about redoing the school, because everybody wants a school. Everybody, we don't all suffer because of the school department's failure to maintain their buildings. And I can tell you about Gilbert Stewart, because my nephew was the last class graduate from Gilbert Stewart when Coley was still principal, and he was valedictorian. So this notion that somehow we're just missing the boat and that this is all about the money that the city might lose. This is about the physical asset of a neighborhood that has few that have been this striking. So when they made a decision, which is they, because we don't know who specifically made these decisions, but when we look at the application for the Historic District Preservation Commission, it says demolition or maybe not. So until this window of opportunity closed, because the demolition trucks are out there, they're working all night during the night. There was no sense that this building was physically going to disappear, just like the Flint School has disappeared. And many other so-called city-owned assets have literally disappeared in neighborhoods and happen to be mostly ours. So I don't think that, I don't think it's fair for this narrative to be driven that somehow the stakeholders in this process are just late to the game. The bottom line is the game was to some extent was set up so that certain people would get information, other people wouldn't. Some people would, like, I'm dying to know what narrative the teachers get for them to show up in a neighborhood across the street from where they work. This is not rocket science. They work across the street. What narrative did they have to suddenly show up and say, we want a new school? We all been saying we want a new school. That ain't the point. The point is, this is a historic asset. This is a priceless asset. There is no need for this to be torn down because of a ideological, speculative, relatively not too clear assumption that this is what parents want. This is the best way to educate our kids. I don't see none of you talking about K-8. I don't see too many schools in general, other than Lincoln and some Wheelers and some very affluent schools that have to have K-8.
Thank you.
Our feeling is the middle school is the middle school. There's 3 schools across the street that the city owns, and they just put $500,000 less than a decade ago, and half of those buildings, it just can't be this kind of experience down the road. Even if we lose this battle and we lose this building, it is so unreasonable to sit around and wait for people to tell us what we're going to decide on, as opposed to actually letting us make decisions. And that's basically what we got. We're going to be deciding on a building, in theory, that we have no leverage because there is nothing there but a blank piece of paper. I mean, I don't even understand why architects would not have pointed out the assets that are in the jurisdiction of the city, right across the street, not even 500 feet that area has been a mess because of the roadworks and not paying attention to city-owned properties. So, I just want the narrative to be at least pushed back. It's just it's almost like, I feel like it's right on the edge of being sort of truthful and sort of not truthful. And when I say sort of not truthful, it means, how many times is the word, I'm tearing this school down? I'm tearing this building down. We don't want this building. How many people did they actually, even the teachers, say, we're not trying to get rid of your school and the opportunity to build a school. What we're saying is there are better ways to do it. And generally speaking, when you have community input, and there's countless examples, I can give you one right now off the website. Dudley Street Station, Dudley, period. Where when you have community engagement that's real, not after you made all decisions, not after you figured out a technicality to go around the historic district review process, to get good information. These people are not our enemies. They're there to help and help us.
Thank you.
So,
Sure.
my heart tells me that, we're not gonna win this battle, but I also believe that no other community should ever have to go through this, that what we've been through. And you can take all the dates and all the other dates in there, but you ain't gonna get no data that says who from this neighborhood was at those meetings. There's 20 engagement meetings, or 13 this, 15 that. We can't get that information because we know from the neighborhood who has been involved in this neighborhood. It ain't been a lot of us.
Thank you.
That.
Thank you, Rochelle. Anyone else? Is there a motion to continue?
Mr. Chair, can we enter this into the record, the fact sheet that they passed out?
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded, all those in favor? Any abstention, in the name of the motion carries.
Thank you.
Items, a motion to continue? So moved. And,
What was the motion? I'm sorry.
a motion to continue the resolution.
Continue.
And the second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any nays? Please have it. Motion made. Meeting adjourned.